Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, bro.
Okay. So before actually reading the chapter, uh, I will like to just give a brief introduction of like what has happened in the third canto just before this, and we are just starting the fourth canto here. So in the third canto, Vidura requested Maitreya Muni to speak about Swayambhuva Manu's dynasty. And Maitreya first discussed about Manu's second daughter, who was Devahuti. We know we have like read entirely about her wedding to Kardama Muni, their family life, the activities they followed, and the birth of their son, which was the Lord himself, Lord Kapila, and the teachings he gave to his mother Devahuti, which was the Sankhya philosophy. So yeah, we have studied all of that. But the descendants of Devahuti's daughters were not discussed before. So here in the first chapter of the fourth canto, Sage Maitreya describes the lineages of the nine daughters of Devahuti. So these daughters were married to different sages. And then the other two, so we are dealing with just like one family, which is like one daughter of Manu, which is Devahuti, but he had two other daughters, which were Akuti and Prasuti. So this chapter will also describe in detail their lineages, Akuti and Prasuti. Uh, Further, one more thing, the Bhagavatam talks about two types of creations. One is called Sarga and another is called Visarga. So, Sarga is the primary creation or the elemental creation, which includes the creation of five gross elements, the Panchamahabhutas, basically, then the five objects of perceptions, and the five senses and mind. So, these are the 16 elements. And this creation is done by the expansion of the Supreme Lord, Mahavishnu himself. And then comes the secondary creation, which is called Visarga. And this creation is done by Lord Brahma by interacting with the three modes of material nature. And here he creates different species, then different sages, different demigods, all of that. So, right now, here in this chapter, we are dealing with the secondary creation, which is creation by Lord Brahma. So, I just wanted to discuss the flow of the chapter before we read. So, verse 1 to 9, we will see the genealogical line of Akuti. Then we will see from verse 10 to 47, we will see genealogical line of Devahuti, which includes the individual genealogical lines of all of her nine daughters. And then from 48 to 66, we will see the genealogical line of Prasuti, the daughters she had with Taksha. Yeah. Uh, And before we dive into it, I just wanted to show you this family tree. So we have an idea of the structure of the family before reading all the texts. So Lord Brahma himself created Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa, the first man and the first woman in a way. So of this Kalpa, Swayambhuva Manu is the first Manu. Uh, and So current Manu is Vaivasvat Manu, he's the seventh Manu, but this is first Manu, and Shatarupa became his wife, and then they had five children. Uh, the two sons were Priyamvrata and Uttanapad. Priyamvrat Maharaj married Barhishmati, and we have like seen their lineages. And Uttanapad married Suruchi and Suniti, and from Suniti, he had Dhruva Maharaja's son, and from Suruchi, he had Uttama's son. And we know the further lineages of Dhruva Maharaj, which include like King Vena is born, then Maharaj Prithu is born in that lineage. So that is that lineage which comes from Uttanapad. But in this chapter, we are dealing with the three daughters, which are Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti. So Akuti marries sage Ruchi, and they have a son Yajna, and then they have a daughter Dakshina. Then, uh, oops, sorry. Uh, Then Devahuti marries Kardama. We know their son Kapila, but along with that, they had nine daughters who were married to nine different sages. And Prasuti is married to Daksha. They have 16 different daughters. Youngest of them is Sati, who is married to Lord Shiva. And in the further chapters, we will be looking at their stories. So yeah, so with this background,
Quick question, Prabhu. The smileys, do they have any meaning here?
not really. I was just like representing gender with that.
Acha, okay, okay. Got it, got it.
uh, am I unable to go out of the screen? Okay. Okay, can you see the chapter?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, so we will we will need like four speakers over here. We have like around 66 verses. So if anyone would like to uh, read, they can raise their hands. So then Nupur Mataji, you can start reading from 1 to verse 16.
Krishna. Sri Maitreya said, Swayambhuva Manu begot three daughters in his wife Shatarupa, and their names were Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti. Akuti had two brothers, but in spite of her brothers, King Swayambhuva Manu handed her over to Prajapati Ruchi on the condition that the son born of her be returned to Manu as his son. This he did in consultation with his wife Shatarupa. Ruchi, who was very powerful in his Brahmanical qualifications and was appointed one of the progenitors of the living entities, begot one son and one daughter by his wife Akuti. One of the two children born of Akuti, the male child, was directly an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his name was Yagya, which is another name of Lord Vishnu. The female child was a partial incarnation of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu. Swayambhuva Manu very gladly brought home the beautiful boy named Yagya, and Ruchi, his son in law, kept with him the daughter Dakshina. The lord of the ritualistic performance of Yagya later married Dakshina, who was anxious to have the personality of Godhead as her husband, and in this wife the Lord was also very much pleased to beget 12 children. The 12 boys born of Yagya and Dakshina were named Tosha, Pratosha, Santosha, Bhadra, Shanti, Idashpati, Idama, Kavi, Vibhu, Suhana, Sudev, and Rochana. During the time of Swayambhuva Manu, these sons all became the demigods, collectively named the Tushitas. Marichi became the head of the seven rishis, and Yagya became the king of the demigods Indra. Swayambhuva Manu's two sons, Priyavrata and Uttanapad, became very powerful kings, and their sons and grandsons spread all over the three worlds during that period. My dear son Swayambhuva Manu, my dear son, Swayambhuva Manu handed over his very dear daughter Devahuti to Kardama Muni. I have already spoken to you about them, and you have heard about them almost in full. Swayambhuva Manu handed over his daughter Prasuti to the son of Brahma named Daksha, who was also one of the progenitors of the living entities. The descendants of Daksha are spread throughout the three worlds. You have already been informed about the nine daughters of Kardama Muni who were handed over to nine different sages. I shall now describe the descendants of those nine daughters. Please hear from me. Kardama Muni's daughter, Kala, who was married to Marichi, gave birth to two children whose names were Kashyapa and Purnima. Their descendants are spread all over the world. My dear Vidura, my dear Vidura, of the two sons, Kashyapa and Purnima, Purnima begot three children, namely Viraja, Vishvaga, and Devakulya. Of these three, Devakulya was the water which washed the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, and which later on transformed into the Ganges of the heavenly planets. Anusuya, the wife of Atri Muni, gave birth to three very famous sons, Soma, Dattatreya, and Durvasa, who were partial representations of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and Lord Brahma. Soma was a partial representation of Lord Brahma, Dattatreya was a partial representation of Lord Vishnu, and Durvasa was a partial representation of Lord Shiva. After hearing this, Vidura inquired from Maitreya, "My dear master, how is it that three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, who are the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of the whole creation, became the offspring of the Atri Muni? Offspring
Thank
of the
you.
wife of Atri Muni. Sorry, Hare Krishna."
Thank you, Mataji. I think Gaur Kumar Prabhu has raised his hand. Would you like to read from 17 to 32, Prabhu?
Sure, Prabhu. Maitreya said, when Lord Brahma ordered Atri Muni to create generations after marrying Anasuya, Atri Muni and his wife went to perform severe austerities in the valley of the mountain known as Riksha. In that mountain valley flows a river named Nirvindya. On the bank of the river are many Ashoka trees and other plants full of palasa flowers, and there is always the sweet sound of water flowing from a waterfall. The husband and wife reached that beautiful place. There, the great sage concentrated his mind by the yogic breathing exercises, and thereby controlling all attachment, he remained standing on one leg only, eating nothing but air, and stood there on one leg for 100 years. He was thinking, may the Lord of the universe, of whom I have taken shelter, kindly be pleased to offer me a son exactly like him. When Atri Muni was engaged in these severe austerities, a blazing fire came out of his head by virtue of his breathing exercise, and that fire was seen by the three principal deities of the three worlds. At that time, the three deities approached the hermitage of Atri Muni, accompanied by the denizens of the heavenly planets, such as the celestial beauties, the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, and the Nagas. Thus, they entered the ashrama of the great sage who had become famous by his austerities. The sage was standing on one leg, but as soon as he saw that the three deities had appeared before him, he was so pleased to see them all together that despite great difficulty, he approached them on one leg. Thereafter, he began to offer prayers to the three deities who were seated on different carriers, a bull, a swan, and Garuda, and who held in their hands a drum, kushagras, and a discus. The sage offered them his respects by falling down like a stick. Atri Muni was greatly pleased to see the three devas were gracious towards him. His eyes were dazzled by the effulgence of their bodies, and therefore he closed his eyes for the time being. But since his heart was already attached to the deities, somehow or other he gathered his senses, and with folded hands and sweet words, he began to offer prayers to the predominating deities of the universe. The great sage Atri said, O Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, you have divided yourselves into three bodies by accepting the three modes of material nature. As you do in every millennium for the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all of you and beg to inquire whom of you three I have called by my prayer. I called for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, desiring a son like him, and I thought of him only. But although he is far beyond the mental speculation of man, all three of you have come here. Kindly let me know how you have come, for I am greatly bewildered about this. The great sage Maitreya continued. Upon hearing Atri Muni speak in that way, the three great deities smiled, and they replied in the following sweet words. The three deities told Atri Muni, Dear Brahmana, you are perfect in your determination, and therefore, as you have decided, so it will happen. It will not happen otherwise. We are all the same person upon whom you were meditating, and therefore, we have all come to you. Till which verse, Prabhu? 34?
32, Prabhu. 32.
Okay. Um, you will have sons who will represent a partial manifestation of our potency, and because we desire all good fortune for you, These sons will glorify your reputation throughout the world. Thus, while the couple looked on, the three deities Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara disappeared from that place after bestowing upon Atri Muni the benediction.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Jagannath Gopal, Prabhu, you have raised hand. Would you like to read from 33 to 48?
Sure. Thereafter, from the partial representation of Brahma, the moon god was born of them. From the partial representation of Vishnu, the great mystic Dattatreya was born. And from the partial representation of Shankara, Lord Shiva, Durvasa was born. Now you may hear from me of the many sons of Angira. Angira's wife Shraddha gave birth to four daughters named Sinivali, Kuhu, Raka, and Anumati. Anumati. Besides these four daughters, she also had another two sons. One of them was known as Utathya, and the other was the learned scholar Brihaspati. Pulastya begot in his wife Havirbhu one son of the name Agastya, who in his next birth became Daharagni. Besides him, Pulastya begot another very great and saintly son, whose name was Vishrava. Vishrava had two wives. The first wife was Idavida, from whom Kuvera, the master of all yakshas, was born. And the next wife was named Keshini, from whom three sons were born: Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishan. Gati, the wife of Pulaha, gave birth to three sons, namely Karmashrestha, Variyan, Sahishnu, and all of them were great sages. Kratu's wife Kriya gave birth to 60,000 great sages, named the Valakilyas. All these great sages were greatly advanced in spiritual knowledge, and their bodies were illuminated by such knowledge. The great sage Vashishta begot in his wife Urja, sometimes called as Arundhati, seven spotlessly great sages, headed by the sage named Chitraketu. The names of these seven sages are as follows: Chitraketu, Surochi, Viraja, Mitra, Ulbana, Vasubridhyana, and Dyuman. Some other very competent sons were born from Vashishta's other wife. Chitti, the wife of the sage Atharva, gave birth to a son named Ashwashira by accepting a great vow called Dadhyancha. Now you may hear from me about the descendants of sage Bhrigu. The sage Bhrigu was highly fortunate. In his wife known as Khyati, he begot two sons named Dhata and Vidhata, and one daughter named Shri, who was very much devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sage Meru had two daughters named Ayati and Niyati, whom he gave in charity to Dhata and Vidhata. Ayati and Niyati gave birth to two sons, Mrikanda and Prana. From Mrikanda, Markandeya Muni was born, and from Prana, the sage Vedashira, whose son was Ushana, Shukracharya, also known as Kavi. And from the sage, okay. Thus Kavi also belonged to the descendants of Bhrigu dynasty. My dear Vidura, the population of the universe was thus increased by the descendants of these sages and the daughters of Kardama. Anyone who hears the descriptions of this dynasty with faith will be relieved from all sinful reaction. Another of Manu's daughters, known as Prasuti, married the son of Brahma named Daksha. Daksha begot 16 very beautiful daughters with lotus like eyes in his wife Prasuti. Of these 16 daughters, 13 were given in marriage to Dharma, and one daughter was given to Agni.
Thank you, Prabhu. Would anyone else like to read? Or maybe I can just finish it. Okay. One of the remaining two daughters was given in chariot to the Pitruloka, where she resides very amicably, and the other was given to Lord Shiva, who is the deliverer of sinful persons from material entanglement. The names of the 13 daughters of Daksha who were given to Dharma are Shraddha, Maitri, Daya, Shanti, Tushti, Pushti, Kriya, Unnati, Buddhi, Medha, Titiksha, Ri, and Murti. These 13 daughters produced the following sons. Shraddha gave birth to Shubha. Maitri produced Prasada. Daya gave birth to Abhaya. Shanti gave birth to Sukha. Tushti gave birth to Muda. Pushti gave birth to Smaya. Kriya gave birth to Yoga. Unnati gave birth to Darpa. Buddhi gave birth to Artha. Medha gave birth to Smriti. Titiksha gave birth to Kshema. And Ri gave birth to Prashraya. Murti, a reservoir of all respectable qualities, gave birth to Sri Naranarayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On the occasion of the appearance of Naranarayana, the entire world was full of joy. Everyone's mind became tranquil, and thus in all directions the air, the rivers, and the mountains became pleasant. In the heavenly planets, bands began to play, and they showered flowers from the sky. The pacified sages chanted Vedic prayers. The denizens of heaven, known as the Gandharvas and Kinnaras, sang. The beautiful damsels of the heavenly planets danced. And in this way, at the time of the appearance of Naranarayan, all signs of good fortune were visible. Just at that time, the great demigods like Brahma also offered their respectful prayers. The demigods said, "Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the transcendental personality of Godhead, who created as his external energy this cosmic manifestation, which is situated in him as the air and clouds are situated in space, and who has now appeared in the form of Naranarayan Rishi in the house of Dharma. Let that supreme personality of Godhead, who is understood by truly authorized Vedic literature and who has created peace and prosperity to destroy all calamities of the created world, be kind enough to bestow his glance upon the demigods. His merciful glance can supersede the beauty of the spotless lotus flower, which is the home of the goddess of fortune." Maitreya said, "O Vidura, thus the demigods worshipped with the prayers the Supreme Personality of Godhead appearing as the sage Naranarayana. The Lord glanced upon them with mercy and then departed for Gandhamadana hill. That Naranarayan Rishi, who is a partial expansion of Krishna, has now appeared in the dynasties of Yadu and Kuru in the forms of Krishna and Arjuna, respectively, to mitigate the burden of the world. The predominating deity of fire begot in his wife Swaha three children named Pavaka, Pavaman, and Shuchi, who exist by eating the oblations offered to the fire of sacrifice. From those three sons, another 45 descendants were generated, who are also fire gods. The total number of fire gods is therefore 49, including the fathers and the grandfather. These 49 fire gods are the beneficiaries of the oblations offered in the Vedic sacrificial fire by the impersonalist Brahmanas. The Agnisattvas, the Parhishadas, the Saumyas, and the Ajyapas are the Pitas. They are either Sagnika or Niragnika. The wife of all these Pitas is Swadha, who is the daughter of King Daksha. Swadha, who was offered to the Pitas, begot two daughters named Vayuna and Dharini, both of whom were impersonalists and were expert in transcendental and Vedic knowledge. The 16th daughter, whose name was Sati, was the wife of Lord Shiva. She could not produce a child, although she was always faithfully engaged in the service of her husband. The reason is that Sati's father, Daksha, used to rebuke Lord Shiva in spite of Shiva's faultlessness. Consequently, before attaining a mature age, Sati gave up her body by dint of yogic mystic power. So, yeah, with that, we can start our chapter. So, I'll just first offer prayers quickly. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिकाकांत राधाकांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हर हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। Okay, so now we can start the discussion of the chapter. As we saw this family tree, now we can dive deeper into it. So, yeah, before I begin, I just want to say that whatever I'm going to say is just like what I heard from different classes, and I have no realizations or knowledge of myself, anything like that. So, please forgive me if I say something wrong, and please bless me that may I be able to speak to please Vaishnavas, gurus, and the divine couple. And yeah, so with that, we can start our discussion. So we are going to discuss three themes over here. The first theme is the Vedic family tree, then birth of Lord Dattatreya, and the third is Shiva Tattva. Because as we are going to deal with the story of Shiva and Sati in the further chapters, so I thought this will be like a nice opportunity to understand who Shiva is from Gaudiya perspective. So these are the three themes which we are going to discuss today. So yeah, the Vedic family tree. So as we saw, uh, Swayambhuva, Manu, and Shatarupa were the two firstborn human beings from Brahma. And then we saw their entire lineage, like how the entire mankind was created from them. So I kind of want to start this discussion with a question. What do you think? Like, we read so many families, so many people. What is the purpose of discussing this family tree in the Bhagavatam? Like, they have dedicated one entire chapter to basically telling who is who, how are they related. So, what is the point of this? Anyone would like to say anything about it? Like, I mean, do you think there is any value why this was shared, this entire family tree?
And it's connected to the Lord, so it's auspicious. Although
Yeah.
we may find it boring, it does not have the spice which is there in past times now. But yeah, it's one of the verses I saw while it was being read that whoever hears with faith, about these descendants, their sinful reactions will go away and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. There is that Falashruti given for this chapter, definitely.
I feel that there is also the factual account. Just when we hear the names, the genealogy, and so on, then we know that this is based on facts. That is
Yes.
not there. If it's just past tense, then it could be fiction. So that's something that I appreciate when I read about these.
Yeah. That is exactly right, Prabhu. Like, even Prabhupada has written that in one of his purports. I will go over that later. So Nupur Mataji says to know how and where it all started. That perfectly makes sense. And Nityakeshwari Mataji says to get an idea for naming children. Yeah. I mean, else it will be interesting to see if people can pick names from those names. Uh, Nupur Mataji also says some characters are there in other pastimes, so it's good to know where they are coming from. Yeah, that's exactly the one of the reasons.
Hare Krishna, one of the other reasons that I was thinking of is each of these names
Yeah,
probably have Sanskrit meanings to the names, and maybe if we explore them, more deeply, maybe some more realizations we could get. Just,
yeah.
just a random thought. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thought, Prabhu. Like meditating on the names itself and try to find like what are the deeper meanings and maybe how they connect to the personalities. Yeah, that's a beautiful thought. I didn't think of it. Yeah. So yeah, all of those answers are valid answers. So I will share something similar what I read from the purports. So what is the purpose of this entire lineage? So one purpose is to show how each lineage serves the mission of the Supreme Lord. So if we see this, this is not an ordinary family, right? Swayambhu Manu is the forefather of all the mankind. His daughters were married to great sages, and who then produced great lineages of demigods, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Prajapatis. Many great devotees were born. Incarnations of the Lord Himself were born. So this is not at all an ordinary family. And we can see how devotional culture is transmitted through the families and how Lord's incarnations appear in such great lineages. When, like, we saw all of them were practicing austerities, all of them were dedicated to the Lord. So you can see how this lineages and civilization was fully God centric. So that is one thing. And second thing is exactly what Gaur Kumar Prabhu said to prove that spiritual history is real and not mythological. By giving this precise genealogies, Bhagavatam proves that it is not mythology, but a historical record of divine civilization. One can think that even maybe like sometimes fictional books which we read give such genealogies that the hero's father was this, grandfather was this, how they were related. But fictional genealogies are limited for the story world. But if we look at the Bhagavatam genealogy, it appears consistently across multiple Vedic texts. They match. So the genealogies mentioned here match the genealogies in Mahabharata, the Ikshvaku dynasty, which is described in Ramayana, it exactly matches. Then also these are again mentioned in Vishnu Puran, Harivamsha, basically many different texts. And for some, there are also different authors, but still they exactly match. And one more interesting thing is, in one of these lineages, King Bharata was born, after whom India is named as Bharatavarsha. So that is one more evidence to show that these lineages were the one which have actually impacted our history, and they are not just mythological stories. And in a way, if we see this family tree also helps us connect the past times, the way Nupur Mataji said. So we are not looking at them as these different disconnected stories which we are reading. But all of them are, we can see how they form a coherent description of the history of the universe. So yeah, those are the few things which I found. But yeah, all of the points which all of you said were valid. And so yeah, one question. In this family tree, whatever we read, which incarnations of the Lord could you spot? So would you like to name some?
Yajna.
Yeah, that is valid. Any other?
Dattatreya?
Yeah.
Yes, Dattatreya, that's valid. Any more? I think at the end there was one. Yeah, there was like gloriously described how they were born and their austerities. So yeah, so the incarnations which are mentioned are Yajna. So Yajna is a Leela avatar. He is a Leela avatar and also Manvantara avatar of the Lord. And it is said, it is described that as there was no suitable Jiva, he also became the Indra to lead the demigods. And Prabhupada writes that Yajna, the word Yajna, comes from Yajusham Pati, which means the Lord of all sacrifices. And in Yajurveda, there are different ritualistic prescriptions for performing yajnas. So the Supreme Personality, Yajna, is the beneficiary of all such yajnas. Just some information. Then the second one who was mentioned was again Lord Kapila, who happens to be the son of Kardama and Devahuti, and we have already studied about his pastimes in detail, about how he taught Sankhya Yoga to his mother Devahuti. Then Dattatreya is mentioned. Again, Dattatreya is also a Leela avatar. We will know more about him in the further slides, but he was the son of Atri and Anasuya, and he's famous for expounding the philosophy of the spirit soul. Then we read about Naranarayana. So Naranarayana are also Leela avatars. They did a lot of austerities. They were famous for their austerities, and it is described that they were born as Arjuna and Krishna, but it is clarified that they were present along with Krishna and Arjuna in the same with them, but they were not themselves born as Krishna and Arjuna. And then Shiva is also Guna Avatar of the Lord. He is also mentioned as one of the son-in-laws of Daksha. So yeah, that's about the incarnations. Now we can move to the next part, which is birth of Dattatreya. Now we kind of read the story how that happened, but just I wanted to again describe that story in detail. So Anasuya was the daughter of sage Kardama and Devahuti, and she was married to sage Atri. So both of them were performing intense austerities, and Atri Muni performed the penance with one pointed desire of obtaining a son just like the Supreme Lord. But here Prabhupada explains that though his intention was pure, he did not have a clear conception of who God is. He understood that there is someone supreme, someone who governs the universe. So he uses the word Jagdishwar. But he didn't know the exact identity of the Supreme Lord. And this kind of seems surprising, right? Like that such a great sage can be unsure of God's identity. But then it is described like how it is kind of relevant to the current world. We see so many intelligent people, great people. Uh, they might be spiritual in some way, or they might be great philosophers, great logicians, etc. But they don't have a clear conception of who God is. So this kind of like reflects that idea. And then we see in the story that listening to his intense prayer, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva appear before him, and they had glowing faces and smiles on their faces, which kind of showed that they were happy with his austerities. And as we know, these three deities are the presiding deities of the three gunas. Brahma is for Rajas, Shiva is for Tamas, and Vishnu is for Sattva guna. So Atri Muni got confused that I prayed to one Supreme Lord, then why three are appearing before me? And he thought that Supreme Lord must be beyond the three material modes, right? Because Supreme Lord is the one who has created everything. So how can he be the one who is like bounded by the modes? So he was wondering this way that how did these three deities presiding over the material modes have appeared before me? And he thought that the Lord should exist before creation. Otherwise, he cannot be a creator if he does not exist before creation. And if he exists before creation, then he should be beyond the three modes. Uh, but despite of that, he was very happy to see like these very great exalted personalities were there. So he greeted them, he honored all of them, and his heart really like melted with heartfelt devotion. And after that, he begged them to know which one is the Supreme Jagadishwara, to whom he really prayed. And the three deities said, we are all the same person upon whom you were meditating. Now, this is true in a sense, as all these three deities are Gunavataras, the Guna manifestations of the Supreme Lord. But it is not the highest truth, as the one who is the source behind all of them is the actually supreme. But then it is described that because Atri Muni's prayers were sincere, all three blessed him and appeared as his sons. So Lord Brahma became Soma, the moon. Shiva became Durvasa, and Vishnu became the great mystic Dattatreya. So at the end, he did have the Supreme Lord Vishnu as his son in the form of Dattatreya. But here a question came to my mind, like, like even such a great person was confused about who is supreme. So I wanted to ask to all of you, how does one know who is the Supreme Lord? How do we know it? If anyone asks, like, who is the Supreme Lord? I think this is a basic question, but I thought it would be still nice to discuss about it. If anyone would like to answer about it.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
I
Krishna.
feel like for us, most of us get to know either through our acharyas or through our parents or someone we call elders. So that would be our first understanding of who the Supreme Lord is. That would be our first introduction, or because we like that acharya, we like that person. Um, we connect
That's
to the
valid.
Lord
Yeah,
through them.
that's totally valid, Manaji. Yeah. So do you think then later it kind of developed or something, or do you think it's just stayed that way?
Yeah, yeah. Later it'll develop because then we start to like follow what they are doing, what they are saying, and our sadhana, integrating our lifestyle, and through that we get realization. We realize Paramatma inside us. We can hear his Paramatma's guidance, and our understanding develops based on that.
That totally makes sense, Manaji. Anyone else wants to add anything on this? Because I think, yeah, what you said, Mataji, is totally valid. And yeah, I think if no one else wants to add anything, I'll just discuss something like what I found from purports of Prabhupada about knowing the Supreme. So one thing which Prabhupada says is that for knowing the Supreme, bhakti is necessary. Like without bhakti, you cannot know. But before that, like if we go to the very initial step, if we think about a situation where we are standing before a row of enormous mountains, and the way we are seeing in this picture, imagine all of their peaks are hidden inside the clouds. And then we are trying to decide that which one of them is the tallest. What do you think? Like, how can we decide that if all the mountains are covered in clouds and we don't have the vision to look at them and find out who is the tallest? Uh, so someone can think that the one with the most, like, most wider, the one which is most wider at the base can be the taller, and such different, like, logics can be developed. But all of these opinions are at the end just guessworks, and we cannot see the peaks at all, so we don't know the truth.
I think
So
Megha
similar,
wants to say
yeah.
something.
Oh,
Megha
sorry,
Mataji.
sorry. You can go ahead, man.
Yeah, Prabhu, two things is how do we know what's the tallest peak?
Right,
One
right.
is, of course, the teacher,
Yeah,
like if somebody tells us. And then second is a map.
right.
I mean, probably like the combination of these two.
That's the perfect answer, Madharaji. So basically, Guru and Shastra is what we rely on. Yes, that is the answer. It's perfect. So yeah, the this basically analogy explains the same thing, that in this universe there are many powerful deities, and from our limited ground level vision, all are unimaginably great. But our judgment is clouded and we cannot see the truth. But for knowing the tallest mountain, we will have to rely on someone who has the vision, or basically some form of recorded data, which you, Mataji, exactly said as like a map or something. So similarly, we have to rely on Guru and Shastra for knowing the Supreme. Yeah. So anyone wants to add anything on this? We can. So I think we can move to our next topic, which is Shiva Tattva. This is the final topic, and this is what we want to focus on mainly. So we know Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that I am the seed-giving father. And Prabhupada says that when Krishna says this, he actually means Lord Shiva, that Lord Shiva is the seed-giving father. Kalidas, in his famous play Raghuvamsha, he starts that play by saying, Jagatau Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau. We bow down to Shiva and Parvati, who are the parents of the entire material existence. So, yeah, so we see the same theme in Bhagavatam, that how Lord Shiva is the father of the entire material creation. Now, we will just try to understand who Shiva is and what is his tattva. So, demigods are jivas who have very powerful posts like controlling fire, controlling rains, controlling winds, etc. But it is described that any jiva can achieve that post by performing austerities, achieving merits, or performing specific yagyas. These posts can be achieved, though very difficult, though very exalted. These posts can be achieved by jivas, and that's why they are called demigods. Now we sometimes use the same word for Lord Shiva as well, but Lord Shiva is very unique. So jivas can become Brahma, but jivas cannot become Lord Shiva. And the reason for that is he is basically Krishna, but he is different. And now we will see that. So Krishna is in the spiritual world and he's tending cows, he's playing flute, and his primary worry is Mother Yashoda might be angry with him for breaking pots, or Radharani must be upset with him. How can he console them? That's his primary worry. And he is Leela Purushottam. He spends all of his time enjoying with his devotees. Dealing with the material world is not his concern at all. So Krishna doesn't come in contact with Maya. It is said creation is not a task which befits God. Like a CEO is not going to sit and actually do any manual work. A CEO will just approve plans. So similar, Krishna is not actually involved with Maya. But to take care of the business of this material world, he expands as Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu does one thing for creation. He just glances on Maya Devi, and Maya Devi is impregnated with all the jivas by Mahavishnu in this way. So it is said that glance, like the moment he comes in contact with Maya Devi, the moment when Krishna comes in contact with Maya Devi, he becomes Lord Shiva. That's who Lord Shiva is. Like the same God, but in contact with Maya. So to understand this better, we can see the Brahma Samhita prayers, the 5.45. क्षीरं यथा दधिविकारविशेषयोगात् सञ्जायते न हि ततः पृथगस्ति हेतो यशम्भुतामपि तथा समुपैति कार्याद् गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. Just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect curd is neither same as nor different from its cause, milk. So I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. So here I want to ask one question, basic question. What do we think? Are milk and yogurt same or different?
They're same and different, Prabhu, in one sense.
Right.
But also from milk, you can get yogurt, but from yogurt, you cannot get milk.
That's exact, Prabhu. That's the exact answer. So, as you said, Prabhuji, sorry, both are dairy. Milk and yogurt both are dairy. So, in a way, they are identical. But we cannot use yogurt in a recipe for milk. Their functions are different. So Ayurveda recommends whenever a person has diarrhea, they should eat yogurt with rice. but you cannot drink milk in that situation. So they are same, but they are different. So now we will see much more in detail how they are same and how they are different. But before going into that, I want to discuss this supreme personality of Godhead. Would anyone like to answer what does supreme personality of Godhead means? You always keep using this word, but what is the exact meaning?
So I can
Yes,
I
Prabhu.
try to share something here. So this is actually this term Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually very pivotal to our entire Gaudiya philosophy.
Hmm.
So, and Prabhupada's choosing of these words is very, very, it's not like a haphazard thing. He's done it with much thought and in line with the previous acharyas, actually, this Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Right.
So now Godhead is Godhead. So when we say God, we say, of course, that God is one person, but then that one person, God can manifest in infinite number of ways, right? So that
Right.
is, in short, what Godhead is, right?
Right.
Godhead is like, it's again, in one sense, God is one, but at the
Right.
same time, that one God can become infinitely many, right? So
Right.
that is Godhead. Now, but even then, like in Brahma Samhita, again, there is a prayer, Deepar Chirevahi Dashantaram Abhyupetya, Deepayate Vivrita Hetu Samana Dharma, Yastadrige Vahi Cha Vishnutaya Vibhati, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So it says that just like there are candles, right? So one candle lights another candle, then that candle lights another candle. Like this, there can be infinite candles, and they in one sense they are the same, right? But
Right.
then still there was that one candle that originally lit the other candles, right? So
Right.
like that. So supreme, that is the supreme, right? That
Makes
is
sense.
one thing. And then personality again. So Prabhupada wanted, and our acharyas, the personality of God is the highest, actually, is what is taught in Vaishnavism. So then Godhead is not like some, of course, God is light and God is all those impersonal things, but the highest realization, the highest existence of God actually is as a person, and depicted by the word personality. Now, actually, there is one more interesting thing I want to share, that so we often say na Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagwaniti Shabdite. Oh,
Right.
you have Brahman is formless, doesn't have any attributes, and then you add, so Brahman is only Sat, eternity. You add Chit, awareness to it, you get Paramatma, right? And then
Right.
you add Ananda to it, you get Bhagavan, right? But
Right.
then Jiva Goswami takes a reverse approach. He says, don't start with Brahman. He says the fountainhead of everything is Bhagavan. From
Right.
Bhagavan, you start removing attributes now.
Hmm.
If you remove, Ananda from Bhagavan, then you get Paramatma, and then you remove Chit, awareness from Paramatma, you get Brahman. So rather than going bottom up, they go top down just to indicate that the Lord is a person after all. He's a personality. So anyway, that is a small thing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead term.
Beautiful, Prabhu. Thank you so much for sharing this. Yeah, it's actually beautiful. Krishan Prabhu says cause of all causes. Yeah, that's also valid. Uh, so yeah, I think you beautifully explained it, Prabhu. I don't have to like go further into it, but just I'll still say what I heard from classes. Uh, so as Prabhuji said, like personality, when from the supreme personality of Godhead, personality means that Krishna is a person, the supreme is a person, and then we have this adjective of supreme to it, which says he is the supreme person of Godhead. So I'm kind of like going in a reverse way. So that kind of means that when we are saying that Krishna is the supreme person of something, that something that Godhead would have like a range of personalities, as Prabhuji said. So out of all those personalities, Krishna is the supreme personality. So I just want to dive deeper into this Godhead concept now. This Godhead has multiple personalities, and one of the meaning which I read was Godhead means Vishnu Tattva. And this Vishnu Tattva has many personalities, including the Chaturvyuhas, then the Purusha incarnations, Mahavishnu, Kshirodakshai Vishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, then all the incarnations of Vishnu like Rama, Varahadev, Narsingadev, all of them are included in this Godhead category. And interestingly, Sadashiva, the spiritual, the supreme form of Lord Shiva, is also included in this Godhead category. He is also one of the Vishnu Tattvas as Sadashiva. And some of the characteristics of these Godhead are that uh, they are definitely Vishnu Tattva. They control Maya. They are never under the influence of Maya. They are Satchitananda, and we can further see about their qualities. Now, jivas are no jiva can be in this category definitely, but jivas have 50 different qualities in different varying extent, is what is described. And Lord Shiva has 55 qualities. Lord Shiva has 5 qualities more than the jivas. And these 5 qualities are: Lord Shiva is changeless, he is all cognizant, he is ever fresh, he is Satchidananda, he is eternally blissful and conscious, and he possesses all mystic perfections. So that's how Lord Shiva is separate than Jivas, much higher. Like he, as Sadashiva, he is in the Godhead category. Now, this was the one of the Godhead categories. Now, uh, the next is we'll see Lord Vishnu. Now, Lord Vishnu has 60 qualities. He has 5 more qualities than Lord Shiva. And those qualities are: he has inconceivable potency, uncountable universes generate from his body. He is the original source of all incarnations. He is the giver of salvation to the enemies whom he kills, and he is the attractor of liberated souls. So these are 5 extra qualities of Lord Vishnu. And as we know, Krishna is the Akhila Rasamrit Murti. He has 64 qualities in full extent. It is described like ideally he has unlimited qualities, but the 64 are the main important famous ones which he has in full extent. Would anyone like to tell what are those 4 qualities which separate Krishna from Vishnu?
I can go if
Yeah, bravo. Yeah.
no one else. So this is Leela Madhurya,
Yeah.
Venu Madhurya,
Yeah.
Rupa Madhurya,
Yeah.
and Bhakta Madhurya.
Yeah. That's almost right, bravo. So uh this is what I found. It was Leela Madhuri, Prem Madhuri, Venu Madhuri, and Rupa Madhuri.
Yeah, great.
So that's perfect, bravo. So Leela Madhuri means he's ocean of astonishing pastimes. Then Prema Madhuri means he's surrounded by devotees who possess incomparable prema, incomparable love for him. Then Venu Madhuri means that his sweet sounding flute attracts everyone from all the worlds. And Rupa Madhuri is again, his form is so beautiful, so sweet that it against everyone's heart. So these are the 4 qualities which again differentiate Krishna from Vishnu. So we can see that how Shiva, Vishnu, Krishna, all of them come into the category of Godhead, but these qualities separate them. And that's why Krishna is the supreme among all of these Godhead personalities. That's why he is the supreme personality of Godhead. So, yeah, with that, we can. Okay. So, before that, yeah, so I just wanted to mention how Shiva and Krishna are same. So, they are same on this aspect that both of them belong to the category of Godhead. There are no other demigods like Brahma, Indra, Varuna. They do not belong in this category, but just Shiva belong. So that way, both of them, Shiva and Krishna, are same in that way, that both of them belong to the Godhead category. But beyond that, we will see how now Shiva is different. So as Gaur Kumar Prabhu said, milk can be transformed into yogurt, but yogurt cannot be transformed into milk. So Krishna can do everything which Lord Shiva can does, but Krishna has some more unique domains as well. So as we saw, Krishna is in charge of the spiritual world. He is just enjoying the divine pastimes in the spiritual world. But Lord Shiva is in charge of the material world. And yeah, I was listening this from one of the classes that Shiva can unlock the door of material world for us and give us liberation. So we know that the wife of Shiva is Durga, the Mahamaya, and how she is kind of like, so this material world is like a prison, and she is like the head prisoner of this material world. So she is kind of like in charge. She can keep people bound. She can give, so she and Shiva basically, they can give like upgrades. It is said like by praying to Shiva, you can get like a upgrade in the prison easily. You are like upgrading into a better prison cell. But ultimately, they also have the keys, and they can also let you free. So that is important. But again, we need Krishna to open the spiritual doors for us to enter the spiritual world. But again, getting freed from the material bondage is also very important. And that's why Radhika Raman Prabhu mentioned that praying, as even as Vaishnavas, praying to Shiva is important. But we will see that how should we approach Shiva? What is the right thing in doing that? So there is the story of Ravana. Ravana, we know, was a great Shiva devotee. And once he tried to lift the entire mountain Kailash, and Shiva was amused by this. Mother Parvati wasn't amused, but Lord Shiva was definitely amused. And he just touched his toe to the mountain, and Ravana couldn't lift it anymore. It suddenly became very heavy, and the mountain fell down, and his hands were crushed under it. And in that situation, he created this beautiful Shiva prayer called Shiva Tandava Stotra. But if we see overall, like Ravana's mode of worship was very uh, in the mode of ignorance, and that is not a good model for Shiva's worship. So it is described that Shiva is worshipped by two categories of beings. One are the ghosts, spirits, demons, goblins. We know like Shiva is always surrounded by them. And the second category is the best of the yogis. All the best of the yogis also worship him. Lord Shiva is called Yogeshwara, and these yogis come to learn yoga from him and achieve liberation. Now we will see more about these categories, like why they worship him. But first, we will see some contradictions in Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is considered to be a personality full of contradictions. So one of the thing is that he is most auspicious one, but he is surrounded by all inauspiciousness. Now, the word Shiva itself means auspicious, but he's surrounded by this ghost, goblins. He roams in crematoriums. He applies the ashes from the burning pyres on his body, and yeah, he does all of this. So why does he like engage? Why does he hang out with such kind of beings like ghosts? I'm sure like it's not a pleasant thing to do. No one would prefer hanging out with ghosts as such, but he does it out of compassion. He's so compassionate, and he's actually the father of everyone. So he accepts them who are universally rejected. These beings, it is said, they have no families, but Lord Shiva accepts them. And being with Lord Shiva, by associating with him, they gradually become purified. And then they can take a human body to progress in their further journey. So that's why he is the most auspicious. He's Shiva, which means auspicious, but still he's surrounded by such inauspiciousness. Then the next thing is he's creator. We saw like he is the father, he's the seed giving father of the entire material creation. But he plays the role of the destroyer as well. So again, this is a contradiction. And Shiva does his Tandava, as we are seeing in the right picture. He does his Tandava to destroy the worlds. And isn't it a beautiful way of destroying the worlds? Like if even if we think of like destroying a building, all we can think of is maybe bulldozers of it, or if it is a huge thing, we can think of dynamites. But Lord Shiva dances to destroy. And it is said he plays Damru by one hand to keep time, and in the other hand, he is holding fire by which he is burning everything. But from Vedic perspective, destruction is not evil. Destruction is essential part of creation. It is also described that forest fire is essential for the good health of forest. There are many seeds which won't open unless they experience the heat, and then they will open. Then the forest fire also clears out all the weeds and letting other new trees grow. It will burn the old trees which are just standing there and not letting sunlight enter the ground. So basically, this forest fire, in a way, paves a way for new things to grow in the forest. So similarly, the destruction which Shiva does paves way for the next creation. And beyond this creation and destruction, he sometimes also helps in to preserve things. So we know the story of churning of the milk ocean. At that time, Shiva drank the halahal poison to save everything, and he, in a way, helped in the task of preservation as well. So that is one more contradiction in Lord Shiva. Then the next is he is the best of the yogis and ideal householder together. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, for becoming a yogi, one must be completely celibate. You cannot practice yoga without it. Yet, Shiva is ideal householder. People worship Shiva Parvati for ideal household life. So he is the best of yogi and the ideal householder simultaneously, which again is a amazing thing. And one thing which we all know about Shiva is that he is angered very easily, but he is also pleased very easily. So he is called Rudra because Rudra is the one who makes others cry, but he is also pleased very easily. So he's also known as Ashutosh. So again, a contradiction. In terms of this, I wanted to just narrate a small story of Bhasmasura. So Bhasmasura was this demon who was doing penance for achieving some boon as usual, and he did many sacrifices in very demonic way, in very ignorant way, and in the final sacrifice, he was going to chop off his own head and offer it to Lord Shiva. Now, Lord Shiva, being very compassionate, he got pleased and he asked Bhasmasura what boon does he want. And Bhasmasura says that whosoever head I keep my hand on, their head should just explode. And Mahadev was like, so be it. If you that's what you want, you will get it. Now, this Bhasmasur wanted to immediately test it, and the only person in front of him was Lord Shiva. So he went forward to keep his hand on the head of Shiva. Now Shiva started running, and Bhasmasura started running behind him, and they were running throughout the entire universe. Finally, they reached Vaikuntha, and Lord Vishnu was really confused. He's like, what's going on? Lord Shiva is running, and this demon is running behind him. So now Vishnu immediately created a solution for his dearest devotee, Lord Shiva. So he took the form of Mohini, and he enchanted the mind of Bhasmasura. He he told, and he started speaking with Bhasmasura. He said, why are you running behind Lord Shiva? You know, some he keeps giving such boons, but not necessarily these boons work all the time. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So you are unnecessarily wasting so much of your energy by running behind Lord Shiva throughout the universe. You should first try out if this is actually working or not. And this Asura, Bhasmasura, is like completely enchanted by the beauty of Mohini, and he has lost his mind completely. So Mohini suggests him, why don't you keep your hand on your own head and check it first? And being completely enchanted, he just does that. And after that, his own head explodes. And yeah, the story ends over there. So yeah, just one example of how Lord Shiva is pleased easily and he can give any boon. Then there is only one quality where there is no contradiction, and that is the devotion of Lord Shiva. He's completely devoted to Krishna, and he's always meditating on the Sankarshana form of the Lord. We know the famous verse Vaishnavanam Yathashambhu. So it is described in Bhagavatam 12.13.16 as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, Achyuta, the greatest of all deities, and Lord Shiva, greatest of all Vaishnavas. Similarly, Bhagavatam is the greatest of all Puranas. So Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava. We know that he is one of the 12 Mahajans, and he is capable of giving good life very easily. As we discussed earlier, his wife is Durga, so he can upgrade the prison cell very easily. And he answers prayers, as we saw in the case of Bhasmasura. He answers them very easily, but we might not know what we really want. And that's why we might end up asking something very foolish, like Bhasmasura, and end up blowing ourselves up. So in case of Krishna, he only gives what is good for us. So that is just again one more difference in them. And after all of this, I again wanted to come back of as Vaishnavas, how should we approach Lord Shiva, Mahadev? So we should approach Mahadev as we would approach a great Vaishnava or as we would approach our own Guru. And we should only ask, please show me the way to Krishna. Please give me devotion to Krishna. And then Mahadev in that scenario is not just helpful, but actually he is very essential in our practice. Our whole process is founded on the idea that we need to serve Vaishnavas. And Shiva being the greatest of all Vaishnavas, we should definitely pray to him and pay respect to him. So Shiva himself says that greatest is the worship of Lord Vishnu, but greater than that is the worship of the Vaishnavas. And by that logic, it means that worship of Shiva himself, who is a Vaishnava, is greater actually. But we need to worship him as a Vaishnava. That's the most important thing. And Shiva is extraordinarily pleased when he is worshipped as a Vaishnava. Uh, Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he went in his South Indian Yatra, he visited many Shiva temples and he danced in ecstasy in those Shiva temples. He could have just ignored those Shiva temples, but he didn't do that. So we should also, as Vaishnavas, always pray to Lord Shiva and pay respect to him and ask him to give Krishna prema, love for Krishna, and sincere devotion to Krishna. So that should always be our prayer. My plan was to recite the Shivashtaka by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Jagannath Prabhu, do you think we should just end the class here? It's already 10.
We can recite Prabhu. No problem. Yeah.
Okay, maybe we'll just recite and maybe we can recite a few stanzas.
Okay.
So would anyone like to if any of you are comfortable, I'll just recite 2 lines and then we can do call and response. You can unmute and sing along. Whoever is comfortable. No pressure. We can just pray in the mood of a Vaishnava to get Krishna Bhakti to Lord Shiva. Namo Namaste Tridasheshwaraya Bhutadinathaya Mridaya Nityam.
Namo Namaste
Namaste Tridasheshwaraya
Bhutadinathaya Mridaya
Bhutadinathaya
Nityam
Nityam. Ganga Tarangotita Bhalachandra Chudaya Gauri Nayanotsavaya.
Gangatharangotthita Balachandra
Balachandra
Chudaya
Chudaya
Gauri
Gauri.
Nayanotsavaya.
सुतप्तचामीकरचन्द्रनील पद्मप्रवलाम्बुदकान्तिवस्त्रै सुतप्तचामीकरचन्द्रनील
चन्द्रनील
पद्मप्रवलाम्बुदकान्तिवस्त्रै
पद्मप्रवलाम्बुदकान्तिवस्त्रै
सनृत्यरङ्गेष्टवरप्रदाय कैवल्यनाथाय वृषध्वजाय
सनृत्यरङ्गेष्टवरप्रदाय
सनृत्यप्रदाय कैवल्यनाथाय
कैवल्यनाथाय
वृषध्वजाय.
वृषध्वजाय.
Okay, we'll just sing one more stanza. This was the one I really liked. Shri Ram Govind Mukund Shaure Shri Krishna Narayana Vasudeva
श्रीराम गोविन्द मुकुन्द शौरे
Mukund Shri
श्रीकृष्ण
Krishna
नारायण
Narayana
वासुदेव.
Vasudeva इत्यादि नामामृतपानमत्त भृङ्गादिपयाखिल दुःखहन्त्रे
इत्यादिनामामृतपानमत्त
कृतपानमत्त
भृङ्गाधिपायाखिल
भृङ्गादिपया
दुःखहन्त्रे.
दुःखहन्त्रे श्रीनारदाद्यै सततं सुगोप्य जिज्ञासिताय सुवरप्रदाय
श्रीनारदाद्यै
अद्यै सततं
सततं
सुगोप्य
सुगोप्य जिज्ञासिताय
जिज्ञासिताय
शुभरप्रदाय.
सुवरप्रदाय तेभ्यो हरेर्भक्तिसुखप्रदाय शिवाय सर्वगुरवे नमो नमः.
तेभ्यो हरेर्भक्तिसुखप्रदाय
सुखप्रदाय
शिवाय
शिवाय
सर्वे गुरवे
सर्वगुरवे
नमः.
नमो नमः. श्रीगौरीनेत्रोत्सवमङ्गलाय तत्प्राणनाथाय रसप्रदाय
श्रीगौरीनेत्रोत्सवमङ्गलाय
मङ्गलाय
तत्प्राणनाथाय
तत्प्राणनाथाय
रसप्रदाय
रसप्रदाय सदा समुत्कण्ठ गोविन्दलीला गानप्रवीणाय नमोऽस्तु तुभ्यम्
सदा समुत्कण्ठ गोविन्दलीला
गोविन्दलीला
गानप्रवीणाय
गानप्रवीणाय
नमोऽस्तु
नमोऽस्तु
तुभ्यम्.
तुभ्यम्. Thank you, Prabhuji. Maybe I'll just read two of the translations which I really like. So it is said, O Shri Rama, O Govinda, O Mukunda, O Shauri, O Shri Krishna, O Narayan, O Vasudev, I offer my obeisances unto you. Lord Shiva, the monarch of intoxicated bee like devotees, maddened by drinking the nectar of these and other holy names of the Lord, obeisances unto you, the destroyer of all grief. I offer my respectful obeisances again and again unto you, who is forever inquired of confidentially by Sri Narada and other sages. Unto you, who also grants favors to them very quickly. Unto you, who bestows the happiness of Hari Bhakti. Unto you, who creates auspiciousness, and unto you, who is the Guru of everyone. I offer my obeisances unto you, who are a festival of auspiciousness for the eyes of Goddess Gauri. Unto you, who is the monarch of her life breath. Unto you, who is capable of bestowing transcendental rasa. And unto you, who is expert in forever singing songs of the pastimes of Lord Govinda with great longing. So yeah, with this prayers, I would like to end the class. For in the further classes, we will see the pastime of Sati, Shiva, and Daksha. And so I thought it will be nice to like know about a little bit about Lord Shiva. Obviously, we know about him, but just diving a little bit into who he is before diving into the pastimes of Shiva, Sati, and Daksha. So yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, dear devotees.
Hare Krishna, Som Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Wonderful, wonderful. It was so nice. Yeah, glories of Lord Shiva and how you very nicely, even in such a difficult chapter, you had discussions, which is really mind-blowing, actually. You extracted such relevant topics, such relevant questions, and had discussions, and ended with the very sweet Shivashtakam. I was reading the ninth verse of Shivashtakam is the Falashruti again, and It says the person who hears these 8 prayers glorifying Lord Shiva with loving feelings and with great attention can quickly gain the love of Lord Sri Hari as well as transcendental knowledge, the application of knowledge, and unparalleled endless opulences. Very interesting. I didn't even know that this existed. Thank you for helping us discover that. So
I
yeah,
found this in Nityananda Charan Prabhu's Shiva book. So Nityananda Charan Prabhu has written an entire book on Lord Shiva, and there he mentions that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he visited South India, he was visiting temples and he has created this, he has composed this Shiva Ashtakam.
very nice. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, bro.
Wonderful class, Soham Prabhu. This concept of knowing Shiva Tattva is very important. And you covered everything that I was thinking of that you would cover in terms of the qualities, in terms of the contradictions, in terms of the pastimes, everything that one needs to know about Shiva Tattva, you covered in this class. So I'm going to put it on Life of Devotion and also mention that if anybody couldn't hear it, they should hear it because they'll understand everything that they have to about Lord Shiva. Thank you, Prabhu. Very, very comprehensive.
Thank you, bro. I think we can end the class.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyahi
Atandubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishvebhyo
vaishnavi
namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda
Vaishnava
ki
ki
jai,
jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Grace Soham Prabhu ki jai.